It's Dame. So I will start with thank you for stopping by. I hope you like the story. Sometimes they're a little slow. Kitty stays with me usually, huh, Kitty? And today's about when I worked at an ice cream place. I'm going to give you a little background. So I worked a lot of different places. I'll go in order of my jobs. I worked at a car dealership as a hostess. I would go out and greet people at Mancuso Motors in Batavia from the time I was 16 till I was about 19. Then I worked in a pizza shop that time, 16 till about the same age, a little older. Then I worked in a bar and I bartended. And then I did that for a decade. Then I worked at a hospital in a lab for about 5 years and started the prison, and that was another long time, 15 years. So I'm going to talk to you about when I was working at the mob bar. I'm bartending, and they hire a girl. She comes in. She's kind of a country girl, and she's selling. She ended up later becoming my sister-in-law. I married her brother, but this is after I didn't know her brother. I knew her sister a little bit from parties. They lived in the country around where I lived. So she comes in, and she was like really strong girl. She could probably throw a bale of hay over her head. They were farmers. She had been selling her own homemade cakes. Kitty loves this sweater. Look, she's just gonna lay on it. Oh, jeez, that was terrible. Sorry about that. Right in my mouth, probably. So she is this incredible person, but she's in a hard time. She needs to get these waitressing hours because she's trying to sell real estate, and everybody in town buys from people they know. And she's from a little out of town. Hard worker. Worked at an ice cream shop. Became a manager there. Her sister worked there too. She was rough. She was tough. She made cakes at 13 and sold them for $100 or more for weddings and stuff. She got a scholarship to Fredonia College as a high school student, and for her art, she was getting like $500 for paintings of people's or technical drawings, almost like of people's farms and stuff. So she was really, really talented and stuff. German descent, Hungarian. And so her goal was to save her money and buy her own ice cream shop, which she did. So I give her all the props in the world. And in that time, we became friends, and I actually moved in with her. I left a boyfriend that was like my high school, college age boyfriend, and moved in with her, and then eventually started dating her brother and married him. So when she bought the place, the ice cream shop, I didn't work there right away. I did festivals with her. So, because I had done festivals with a friend that made tie-dyes and gone around to Grateful Dead shows and stuff and sold t-shirts as well as just at different festivals. And I grew up in Rochester. And when you look at the maps on the last one, you'll see I went to Cobb. I lived on Cobb's Hill. That's right around where the Lilac Festival is this time, I'm going to tell you. And it's odd because I lived there. There's a little walking bridge you'll see, and I put a picture of Red and White Deli. Now, we're like 8 years old, and we walked across that bridge from Cobb's Hill Drive over to Park Avenue, and that's where the Park Avenue Fest is. I told the story about jumping in my cousin. She lived off of Park Ave, and she would lift me up into the dumpsters. And not every dumpster. This is a florist shop, so it's just flowers in here. It's not like gross or anything. And I would go in there and get all the flowers that were like, so many were like alive, really. There was some dead ones, and we would make little bouquets of them and tie the ribbons, and then I would go stand by that red and white. There's pictures of it, and walk up and down, and that's a really hip, artsy district. I mean, people would buy me out right there. I think we were getting like $1 a bouquet or something, and we would use it for like stickers money and like getting a can of raviolis or something. Our parents were like, come home when the lights are on, and it was a wild place back then. You had Chuck Mangione, Don Potter, big music scene, big cool art scene there. So it was always just like a hopping place for people to throw you, $5 for a thing of flowers. So I was real used to that area. She was a country girl. I was not. I was country in Florida, but I had lived in Rochester and Long Pond and Batavia. I had lived lots of places by the time I met her. So she was quite insular in her experience in the world. She had just lived in that county, basically. She didn't even like go to Rochester or anything, or Buffalo, the cities, much. So she started making really good money. We were doing the festivals, and they were huge hits. Everybody loves ice cream, and it was fun. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to be like a fairy tale giving kids ice cream and stuff. Well, she wanted things a certain way, and she was, she was a tough boss. So it ended up that we both got pregnant at the same time. I married a brother, and we had our kids, and just kind of like, when I divorced her brother a few years later after that, we just kind of fell off. I had planned all the family vacation stuff, but we were best friends for a long time. When I met her, when she came into that restaurant, I didn't know her at all, but I did know a story because my father had this best friend that had gone to California to be a bodylifter, and his family owned like Pepsi, and in our town, and he had gone to be a bodybuilder in like the 70s in LA, and like I knew him when I was a really little kid, and then he was just gone, and then all of a sudden when I was like 20 or so, maybe he came back. And he came, and I was over visiting my father, brokenhearted over this first boyfriend I had for a long, long time. And I was going to talk to my father about it to find an apartment. And I ended up moving in with this girl. I'm not going to say her name, because that was the time. But I didn't know these things. You don't know the things behind everything. So anyway, so she says, "Your dad's Bob." And I say, "Yeah, my dad's Bob." And she's like, "Oh my God, I love your dad. I met him at Delavan's." That's a little bar, a little towny bar that used to be open. And I thought, that's odd. My dad doesn't even go to bars. But she said, "I know his best friend." And I'm not going to say his name either, but she did. And this was the guy that when I was there with that broken heart at like 17 or something, because she's a little older than me, but just like the same as my husband, like 4 years older than me. So she was this girl that he had met and had this huge crush on. I'm not going to get into the details, but it was really nothing. And his sister had cheated with her boyfriend. Her fiance had cheated on her with this guy's sister, and she was heated. I mean, it was all about the sister. That lady was like, she doesn't even know how close she was to bad things happening. And it had nothing to do with the guy, but he came up to my family's porch, my dad's porch, which was on this main road. And I'm sitting outside waiting for my dad to come out and talk to me. And he pulls up on a motorcycle with a guitar. And he's like, "Davey, can I talk to you for a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I never liked him at all. He was just like way too much, like the coolest guy in the room, always loud, over 6 foot, just the coolest guy always. He just wasn't very kind or ask you how you're doing, but he's happy to tell you his thing. So, and I'm 17, this guy's 36. Now, this girl's only going to put her, or maybe I'm 20, I don't know, I'm young. When this happens, this is going to put me, I don't know, I'm meeting her around the time I'm 24. It doesn't matter. Maybe she's that age. He's way too old. He's my father's age. He starts crying and playing this song in front of on my father's porch with people driving by looking, saying things to me later, because I worked at Sonny's. Oh, fuck. It was called that then, but it's not the same place now. It's not the same place now. These are totally different owners and have nothing to do with it. If anybody's like looking around where I worked a long time ago, the owner's dad, that had everything to do with it, and those people are not who I'm talking about. So that's where she worked with me, and it was this guy, and he sings this song with her name. I'm just going to say, "Name, I love you so much, name, she won't come back, name." And then come to find out, it's all just for his sister, but because she had cheated with her. So I worked for this girl on and off for 20 years. We have a long time when I divorced her brother that we don't talk, years that we don't talk, and she marries someone else in that meantime, and has a real hard time with that eventually, but we become friends in that time. Again, like somehow maybe through the kids or whatever, because it was a real mess with her family and me and her parents and her brother and stuff. So that just kind of fell off naturally. But then we picked up again when the kids were older, and she's like, "Can you work for me? Can you do these festivals?" Because I always knew how to do festivals, and we made a lot of money for her because I was real quick and fast, and I just thought it was the best thing ever. But let me tell you, it was hard, and it was really brutal. I mean, I remember one time doing an ice cream cone, and she took my hand in front of people. Like, hundreds of people would be in line. You can't believe how long people wait for ice cream. They will wait in a line for 10 minutes, and she had the best ice cream. No lie. And she took my hand. Here's the cone. I'm going to give it. She grabs it. I'm holding on to this phone so I can't. And she taps it on the side of the ice cream thing. So it plops in, and then she takes it from my hand and she re-scoops it. And she goes, "This will be right," like the 4 ounces or whatever it was. Well, I got to tell you, like, I cook without measuring, and I always have. I can tell by weight. I don't have depth perception. When I get like car sick and stuff, I have trouble driving, like parallel parking, all that stuff. But I'm telling you what, if there's one thing I can do, it's weigh things, and I knew it was the right. But she just wanted to embarrass me in front of all those people and tap it. Like I was like the dumbest girl she ever saw. It was like a lot, and a lot of stuff like that. But when you are like, what's going on? What's going on? Here's the first day I worked for her at the Lilac Festival. This is a huge thing in Rochester history. Also, I put up that Warner Castle, and I put a first cousin. That guy was a first cousin of mine, and I grew up around that park never knowing that. There's a sunken garden. It's called Warner Castle. It's very beautiful. And here I'm selling ice cream a block over and have no idea, like at one time back in the 1800s, that was a cousin's, he was a judge in Rochester and he owned that. And here, I grew up the street from it, had no idea. I used to skate at Temple Bethel on my roller skates, that's behind Cobb's Hill. And then you go over that bridge and that was red and white in Park Ave, where I'm telling you we sold the flowers and stuff. The school's up the street. It's a real cool neighborhood, but, yeah, so I don't know where I was going. I forget where I was with that. Well, we sold a lot of ice cream there. I mean, we did thousands of dollars a day with her and I, just her and I. And it was busy as heck. I would leave with like sometimes $300 in tips, and you're walking through the hood, through that park with all this cash in your pocket. I got like gangbangers following me to my car sometimes. That was like the last one I did. I was working at the prison. That's the joke of it though. I was working at the prison trying to make this extra money. My kid needed a lot of stuff. I needed stuff. My husband needed stuff. We were all like, I don't think I even worked one once I got married to Sean. I think I might have done one before, a few in a summer before we got married, but we got married quite soon, within a year, and I didn't do them anymore. But before that, I did them every summer, all summer, wherever we went. Oswego, Rochester, Buffalo, East Aurora Art Festival. That's a really good one. We were always there. And so I didn't even know any of that. And here I'm working for her. She doesn't know that either. And it's all these little connections of like, you don't think anybody's involved with it, but they are. They know, but you don't. She didn't know that about like my family having that castle. I mean, her father had a song every time I walked in the door. He'd say, "What's that song about the disgusting Irish, what drunken scumbags they are? What is that Irish song? Diane, what's that song? I can't remember it. How lazy and stupid they are." You know, here I'm unpacking my baby for them to watch her for like a St. Patrick's Day. They didn't watch her much for us when we were married. They watched her a lot for my husband when it was his weekend. And then they, you know, did a lot of stuff to bar me from the property. They had four-wheelers and every bad idea you could have for a little kid to have. You know, here's my daughter cruising around on one by their newly dug pond and stuff. It was just like a nightmare on Elm Street for a mom not allowed on the property, but that's what it was anyway. So anyway, when I would go back to work after working for her, and it was good money, but I drove by myself because she was one of those people that liked to scare you when she was drive crazy fast. She had all these tickets, lost her license. It was brutal. She'd say, "Should I outrun them?" And I'd be like, "Oh, please don't," because you never knew if she would, because she had. Not with me in the car, but I didn't want that to happen. So I just would drive myself. So now it's cutting into my money a little bit there. Now I'm driving to Oswego, driving myself, sharing a hotel room with her to stay the whole weekend, and it just wasn't working out like how it should have. And she ended up, I would tell people at work, they'd say, "How was your fun weekend selling ice cream?" I'm like, "It was horrendous." I would tell them like the different situations that had happened. I mean, some wild stuff happened too. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want a problem with her and she's still around. But they were things that I couldn't abide by, like the way she talked to people, her workers. We used to go to a casino up in Niagara Falls, and the people were on camera, and it was just the way she would talk to them was like something I couldn't abide by. I would say, this is no bueno at all. And I'm not going to say more on it because it actually ended up while I was here making the paper. She did that to someone's kid, and the kid, rightfully had every right to gripe about whatever the situation was. I can't remember because there were so many people that got online and got on that feed and said, "This happened to me, that happened to me, this happened to me." I mean, remember when I went to get a shirt and I had put on some weight? I was really heavy at the prison at one point, and I needed a large shirt, and she was like, "We do not have larges. I'm not going to get larges. We have small and medium. You need to like lose a little weight or use one of the sweatshirts before you come into work for this thing, because I'm not going to have you look like that, and I'm selling ice cream. Like, everybody's going to be a big, fat, lazy wad like you are." Like that. I mean, it sounds harsh, but that is how she put it. And she would say, she would say this in front of people. Like I remember East Aurora once, she said to people, she goes, "She's not used to hard work now. I went up 6 flights of stairs up and down because a captain could just move my filing cabinets to make me do all that running up and down between 3 offices. They didn't fill a job for over a year. I did 2 people's jobs. out of title work, and I did the chart office secretary, and I was time and attendance lieutenant, and a female captain took over, and she just decided to like move everything, just like constant grind on me. Love ride. So she, the thing with the other one was it made the paper. People found out. I don't know any of those people anymore to ever like, you may not hear it like, oh, you were right. Like it was that bad, but here it was. And I feel like I didn't do enough to help those girls because my girl worked for her and I had to go up and down one side of her. Like if there's one more problem with my daughter, you're going to have a serious problem on your hands. Like with me and you, we're all grown now. And my little girl's not. And I'm not going to have you talking to her. She's your niece and you're talking to her some kind of way. And it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So we just kind of fell off after that pretty much. It couldn't be. I had to tell my girl, like, if you stay working for her, there's nothing I can do for you anymore on that. Because it's a problem. Like, I wanted her to just quit and be done with it. But she was good. She was like so determined to make it work. And, props on her. But that wasn't something I could do. So anyway, one of the good reason, when you like people in the beginning, and here I lived with her for a while and she was my very closest friend for a while. But one of the reasons I liked her was at that bar we worked at, she was a waitress and I was a bartender. This guy, she put his spaghetti down in front of him. He was morbidly obese, which she could not stand. She just could not. That was a pet peeve. And she put his plate down and he took his tongue and he ran it up her arm, her whole arm. Licked her. She hates germs like that. She's very clean. Her place was the cleanest. I mean, you can't say anything about that. She was just hard on people. Like, he did that. She took the plate of spaghetti and dumped it right on his peanuts. Totally, like, he screamed, wanted her fired and everything, and the owner he was just like, why'd you do that? And she's like, he licked me. I mean, you could see a spit on her arm. He was inebriated. It was disgusting. But she did that, and so I liked her, and I thought, girl power, We wanted to get, my friend Candy and I wanted to get a wedding business going. We were getting flowers together. We had done a couple flower arrangement, like, the flowers for a couple different weddings, and we wanted to she was good at calligraphy, our own, like, wedding business going so that we could do it ourselves and put a little money on the top and really get a great wedding business going at the time. And that girl that I'm telling you about with the ice cream could make cakes. I mean, she had won awards for her pies and cakes, and her decorating skills were beyond. And I was like, we could do this. The three of us could do this like bangers, but it didn't work out that way. But anyway, that was the funny part of people saying, you must have had such a good weekend on your off time and having so much fun selling ice cream. And it would have been so much fun. I mean, I'm not going to argue over sprinkles. Give them the sprinkles. And she's like, it's 50 cents. I'm like, I get it. Nobody wants to lose money. But so that's kind of a long one, 17 minutes. I'm going to post it and erase it because I have to erase it to make a new one. But that's just to show you that when time goes on and you think things are so bad and people are like not believing you and like you're like, I'm looking for the joy in this. Like sometimes you just don't recognize what's going on around you, and people are so ugly all the time that it's like you think they can't do better. Yeah, they can. They can do better. They choose not to. They choose what to remember, how they want to remember it. They'll constantly reframe it to you. Remember when this happened? Yeah, that's not the order. No, that's not how that came. Nah, you got that loot. I didn't get that loot. You got that loot. You got that deal. I didn't get that deal. But you know that you were there and you might have made that happen. Take your time and realize that they're not going to give you credit. They're not, and you don't need it. You don't need that credit or anything. Just know that probably what you didn't get at the time was the thing that you got coming later in the best way. And it was nothing better than seeing, like, everything I said to her about how she was treating people, it was all over the news. All over the news. Lucky she kept her business because it was completely inappropriate. I never lied to her. I was always a good friend and tried to make her see the error of her ways. But, she's calling me a welfare person. She's like, working for the state, you work at the prison, you might as well be on welfare. We're just paying you guys to sit around like lazy wads, just doing nothing. You sit in your office doing nothing. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm going between 3 offices, 2 jobs. The stress of it, like, you can't imagine those cases with the civil commitments and the kids and all that stuff. It was like, there was no therapy. There was no even, there was no training on how you do that job. You just go through points of a case. It's very sterile how they tell you to do it, and then you're reading the most horrendous things you've ever read in your life, or you're watching the videos that are just attack after attack, assault on staff, assault on people, inmate to inmate, hundreds and hundreds, thousands by the end of it that I saw all the time. So you know, you're just like in this weird world of like, what is going on? And, you know, they're circling the drain where that is right now. A lot of places are, but that one is for sure. But it did come around that she did get better. It came to light in a bad way because it wasn't good advertisement at the time. But, and I'm sure now everything's better and she's probably gotten therapy that she needs. And most of those people are all dead anyway. So, you know, who cares? But know that you can have people that will seem to be one way, but are completely the other, and family members. And I wasn't their family. I was married in. So always remember that too. You're not really their family. My family was gone, and that was all I had. So I clung on to try to make things seem better than they were, when I'm going to tell the truth now. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. And they were, you know, that's what they do. So where does it get you? I'm not sure. But that's my little story about selling ice cream. It was more stressful than the prison sometimes, but sometimes it was fun. I'm going to look for a funny story. I'm trying to think of a funny one, but the funniest thing is that she would say these things and people would just look at me like, what is going on? I'm like, yeah, I work at the prison and I can't wait to go in on a Monday morning. I mean, we had laughs. My tip jar was full. We had laughs, because if you can't laugh at life, I don't know what to tell you. It'll be a long, sad thing. I'd rather, sometimes they call it gallows humor, but I would rather laugh about things and figure out a way to pick myself up and look at the things and just recognize what I'm seeing and get rid of the problem and move on. That's the way to do it. All right? All right. That's my advice from Auntie Dame or Granny Dame on this kind of cloudy day, but it looks like BS clouds. I bet you it'll be nice later. We shall see. Super long video. Thanks for watching. Try to go back and see the other ones if you like what you hear. They're random stories from an old auntie. All right. Peace.